It's time for the craft and business of making comics. My name is Buddy Scalera. I'm joined with my good buddy, Mike Fasolo. Mike, we've got a great guest on tonight. We got a big show. What do you think?
I like the idea of a big show.
Like a big show. We actually have a lot of content, so we're gonna go quick hit style this time because we're gonna go through an entire narrative, and I think you'll find that really useful. But Mike, first, why don't you tell us who you are?
Oh, look at that! You changed the graphic.
I do. I keep it changed up for you.
I like that. I like that. That's one of my favorite pictures.
All right, go ahead, Mike. You are.
I am Mike Fasolo, 3-time Emmy winner, 2-time Annie winner, Robot Chicken, Wizard, Toy Fair, blah blah blah.
Way to bring the enthusiasm like you're not reading your own slide.
You know, I don't like talking about myself. It's not that kind of show.
It is that kind of show. I think we should just stay on this slide the whole night and just stick with it.
You should. I think when I edit it, I'll just keep it up in the little corner.
Why not? People love that. And who am I, Mike?
Oh, buddy. I'm gonna go backwards this time. You are a marketing technologist, an educator, and an award-winning comic book writer.
Wow, not bad. And it looks like comments are already flying in, Mike, and people are excited.
Yep, here we go. Oh, Redheaded Ed was first today.
Hi, Redheaded Ed. Nice to see you.
Biggest show of the week. Exactly.
Wow, this is a tough crowd, Mike.
Yeah, they are just sparring back and forth. Oh, challenges, games, and comics. I think that's somebody.
Is this the first time?
Yeah, hang on. I got to get the cheering. There we go.
Welcome. We have to give him the. Hold on, we have to give the award for first time. Welcome to the show, Challenges, Games, and Comics. We're very excited to have you. Thank you for joining us. But look, Mike, let's pull that graphic off and welcome our guest from the green room. There you go. Mike, we know him because we've known him for many, many years in the comic book business. I'm going to bring him right to the stage. Joe Illidge, welcome to the show. Let's see the cheering.
Hey, gang, how y'all doing tonight?
That cheer, hold on. I got to do the cheering again. I don't know if that was the right, that wasn't the...
That was the right cheering.
There it is. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am honored.
Joe, we're honored
to be here once again.
You have an illustrious career. It was amazing just going through Wikipedia and different websites to see what you're up to. Hey, it is Joe, right? You've been in this business for almost as long as me, Joe. I remember when you came in as a young guy with DC Comics. You were assistant editor, associate editor on Detective. Then you joined Milestone. You wrote for DC. You've written graphic novels. You've been knee deep in it in editing and writing for years, and things are also taking off. We'll be looking at your current projects. Once again, I'm just going to give you the cheer, Joe, because it's worth a cheer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And hello to all the guests that have shown up so far. Nice to see them here.
Yeah. Shout out to the audience. They make the show a lot more fun, and we bring in their comments and their questions, Joe. So you'll be fielding questions. But Mike, a little note before you joined in the backstage at 7:59.
Always on time.
Always on time. Well, you were on time. Joe had announced that he was doing Spawn, and you know what a big McFarlane and Spawn fan I am. I was like, Joe, you have to come on the show. Joe said, I can't come on yet, but I will join the show when I can. And Joe was true to his word, reached out and said he was available to join the show. And we thank you for that, Joe.
You're welcome. That's how it works. That's how we stay a community. Try to honor our word and stay in touch with our friends and our allies.
Well, Joe, I will say you are a consummate pro. No matter how many things I asked for during the week, you kept delivering, and the resources that we'll be showing tonight are thanks to you and your professionalism. Thank you very much. And we should say thank you to Melissa Mazzaros. Is that the right way to say her last name?
Yes. She is my superhuman publicist, and I mean that. She is superhuman, and I am very blessed to have her.
Well, we all are, because Melissa's really cool, and I've never met her in real life. Maybe at New York Comic Con. So we're gonna get right into Joe's work here, Mike. And first, we're gonna jump into Shadow Cabinet, which is this just a reboot, a reimagining, a relaunch of Milestone? Just help us out, Joe, because I remember Milestone when it came out. That's when I met you. I don't remember when Milestone ended and then when it restarted. Just give us the 30-second on that.
Yeah, Milestone started publishing the first iteration in February of 1993, and they went for 4 years. And then that first iteration ended, and what happened was the Static Shock cartoon ignited interest or reignited interest in Milestone. And so then they had a mini series that unfortunately both departed, Dwayne McDuffie and John Paulione, worked on, called Static Shock Rebirth of the Cool. Dwayne would end up writing a 2-part prestige format series called Milestone Forever, which kind of closed the door on the old Milestone universe and merged it with the old DC universe. And so Milestone has come back again and again and again, but there was a big relaunch in 2020 because that was during the pandemic. And what happened was DC started something called DC Fandom, which was a virtual con, which had a lot of programming and digital comics. And so Milestone came back in a book called Milestone Return Zero that was debuting in digital format. And then in 2021, they started the print relaunch. So Milestone Return Zero was in print, and they launched the first 3 series: Hardware Season 1, Icon and Rocket Season 1, and Static Season 1. That went on for 4 years, and the culmination storyline of that relaunch is the Shadow Cabinet. So I basically tell people the Shadow Cabinet is to the Milestone relaunch what Avengers Endgame was to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and its first 10 to 11 years. It was the culmination story.
He really spins a narrative, this guy, huh, Mike?
Yeah, yeah.
I might know a few things about a few things.
And know what I like about Joe? There's no short answers. He gives you the full answer, right? He doesn't just brush you off with like, oh yeah, relaunched.
Yeah, he doesn't just go with, yeah, it was good.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, I try to give you context.
You do, and that's what the show is about. Like we don't bring people on that we don't want short answers. We want the full answer, and the full answer now is you had worked on Shadow Cabinet, which you began to describe. Set up Shadow Cabinet for us, because we're going to get into the actual pages of your book, showing your pitch and showing your plotting and the art. Just set this up for us.
Okay, great. So there was a Milestone storyline that Reginald Hudlin, well-known filmmaker legend and one of the Milestone producers, that he co-wrote, called Icon versus Hardware. And within that storyline, Brainiac, the archenemy of Superman, who's an artificial intelligence, I think originating from the planet Krypton, he invaded the Milestone world, and he tried to take over the world, and he failed. And so when it was time to write this story, it occurred to me that's a great jumping off point. Like to say, okay, this alien intelligence tried to take over the world and failed. Well, what's the aftermath of that? And so I said, what would things be like 6 months later? And so what we have 6 months later, and that's the beginning of the Shadow Cabinet, is we have a world in which all of Milestone's heroes are gone. They're either just retreated to their neighborhoods or they're out in space. And Rocket, who's a 17-year-old who was a sidekick, is now the only superhero. She's the only one out there in the skies, day after day, night after night, and because she's trying to save the world by herself.
Right? That's Rocket, right?
Yes, yeah. That is Rocket. And so there's a secret society of superheroes who have been manipulating events behind the scenes, preventing one apocalypse after another, called the Shadow Cabinet. And the Shadow Cabinet comes out of the shadows to approach Rocket and basically say, hey, listen, we want you to join us. And if you don't join us, you're going to be dead in less than a week.
Oh, no,
because
that's a pretty good. Yeah, right, Mike?
Right?
That's a good pitch to join them. Yeah, if you don't join us, you're going to be dead. Yeah,
In a week.
Yeah, because the founder of the Shadow Cabinet is an East Asian man named Dharma who has the ability of time view, so he can see the past and multiple futures. So basically, he's saying to Rocket, there's only one future in which you and everyone you love survives, and it's the one in which you join us. And if you don't, you're done. Now, for a 17-year-old, and the perspective of a teenager is one of immortality. A teenager is not thinking about like the end. That's not in their frame of mind when it comes to life on Earth. There may be emotional apocalypses, but there's not a literal physical end yet. So telling a 17-year-old, hey, you're not going to make it to 18, first there's a denial, but then there's a chill in your heart. So Rocket is trying to outrace the prophecy. All right. And the more she tries to outrace it, the closer she gets to it.
All right, let's get into it. Thank you for the setup. We're set. You were kind enough to offer what is this? Was this your pitch, your proposal, just a plot point? Talk to us about what we're looking at here.
So what happened was there was a 1-hour Zoom call with myself, Reginald Hudlin, some of Reginald Hudlin's assistants, Dennis Cowan, co-founder of Milestone, and one of the producers of the present version of Milestone, Marquise Draper, who's the Milestone editor, and Chris Conroy, who's an executive editor and was supervising Milestone. We had this 1-hour call about what does this story need to be in terms of the purpose that it serves to the Milestone continuity. And so I walked away from that meeting, and then 2 weeks later, I came back with a 21-page pitch.
Wow.
It was the entire story from the first scene to the last 10,000-foot view. And so what you have here is an excerpt from that 21-page pitch.
All right. So what is the hook here that I know you didn't give me all 21 pages, but just what is the essence of why you're showing this, and what educational value can our audience get from how you've put this together? Clearly we're in a, I think this is probably page 1 of your pitch, or is this right in the middle?
Yeah, this is kind of like the very first scene of the issue, which is pages 1 to 3. And I really thought about it from the perspective of a James Bond cold open, right? That before you get into the beat of the story, there's something that happens at the beginning that propels you forward. So basically, this is the introduction of a biracial woman in her 60s named Angela Alva, who breaks up a meeting of this consortium of individuals called System, and they're on a jet, like 35,000 feet in the air.
Oh, okay.
And Angela Alva just shows up because she has a teleporter that works for her. So the teleporter basically gets her on that ship, on that plane, and she's coming in there and she's basically like, you guys are lame. The way you're handling things, it's really boring and unimaginative. And like the guy who's at the head of the chair, asks her who the hell she is. But before he can get the rest of the question out, she shoots him through the head with like a rail gun. And then her teleporter assistant pulls the dead body out of the chair at the head of the table, wipes the back of it a little because it's got blood splatter. And Angela just takes her chair and she says, "My name is Angela Alva and I'm your new boss."
I love that. And what you've done in the cold open is immediately started with a mystery, a bit of action. You don't know who anybody is, but you get into it enough to know, okay, this is a character that is a force to be reckoned with. And you give an example. Is this Vanessa Williams?
This is Vanessa Williams. And for me, when I'm writing characters, and I co-created Angela Alva. Angela Alva was created by myself and artist Daryl Banks, who's a friend and a legend, co-creator of Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, among many other things. So I need to have a picture in my mind of what this character looks like. And once I can figure that out, once I can create an avatar of them, I can start figuring out their voice. And I just said, okay, I think I read a few months before that Vanessa Williams was coming back in a new musical, in The Devil Wears Prada, where she was playing the character who had been made famous by, oh my God, what is the matter with me?
Yeah, I
One
know
of the best
totally.
actresses on planet Earth. Why am I bugging out like this?
I know
Meryl Streep.
Meryl
Meryl
Streep, well done.
freaking Streep, the deity herself, right? So the role that she made famous in the film, it was her, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt. So that role is now being played by Vanessa Williams, in a musical. And I was like, that's Angela Alva.
That's your casting call, though. Now we have proof that if Angela is played by Vanessa Williams, you can be like, look, I always had you in mind.
Dude, I've been very public about that. Like, I would not have a problem with Vanessa Williams playing a character I co-created on screen. You know what I mean? So,
would you have a problem if Mike was cast as Angela Alva?
oh my God, I would really have to talk to the casting director and say, listen, could I offer you something to reconsider this position? And it's not that I have a problem with Mike. I'm sure he has acting acumen, but that might be a bridge too far.
I would do my best, but I'm sure I wouldn't be as good as Vanessa Williams.
Mike, don't sell yourself short. You have 3 Emmys and 2 whatevers. All right, so let's get into this. So, and just so we can go quickly, this is page 3 of your script. Just verbally tell us what's going on, because I'm going to start to show the pages.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, this is when Angela kills the person who's at the head of the chair, because this person, number one, they disrespected her by interrupting her and challenging her authority. And number two, she's the boss. Like, he's in her chair. So in another scenario, she would have said, okay, you can get up and I'll assume my seat. But, so she had to kill him. And then she just walks over to her chair and she's chastising these people. And she's like, get more imaginative. Show me some real ideas, people. Let's make something for real happen. And then she says, oh, by the way, I'm your new boss. Right. So that's how this page goes.
All right. So we get this. You outline page 3. I'm always interested as I'm a writer. Mike's a writer. Is this how you envisioned the scene when you wrote it? And or did the artist interpret it and bring something different to the page?
Well, what I'll tell you is, first of all, Darryl Banks is one of the best storytellers in comics.
Agreed. The
way he composes a page, the way he composes 2 pages next to one another. So my vision of this page as I was writing it is not as visually interesting as what Darryl put forth. I mean, he's just making panels of these different shapes. He's moving the eye. He leads you from Angela's face and the gauntlet over to panel 2, down panel 3, panel 4, and panel 5 is the width of the page in this climactic shot. You know what I mean? And so I tell you, when these pages started coming in, and look, as a writer, when the very first pages start coming in, you're like, oh, okay, this is on. This is for real. So yeah, Darryl just really did great work.
Mike, you've worked with professional actors and actresses. It is a combination of what you put on the page and then what they bring to the role, and you can see that here in the body language and in the framing. Do you see the way the body language and the close-ups change the charge of the scene?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. I'm bringing you into the show.
Oh yes. My screen is so tiny I can't read what was written on.
Well, it's really good. It's really good.
It's really good. It's really good. Thank you for pointing out that. It's really
I forgot that you work off a small screen and you didn't have your eyeglasses on today.
Well, you didn't. You also didn't blow it up as you usually do. So.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, so we're not going to go back. You're going to have.
The answer is yes.
We'll do it one more time with Spawn. And then we bring the colors in. Who's doing your colors?
So the colors are by Chris Sotomayor, and he and I go back to Milestone Generation 1. So having him come in and do the colors for this was great. And then the lettering was by a letterer named Justin Birch, who works for a lettering studio called And World Design, which is one of the most ubiquitous lettering studios in North American comics. And so, like, this whole progression is just like, these are the layers, and every layer is storytelling, right? So the black and white art is storytelling. Then what Chris is doing is storytelling, just the way he has that light coming through that window. You know what I mean? And then the lettering is storytelling, how the lettering is positioned around the characters so that it's seamless, right? I just love it. And then at the end of this page are the first few captions of the new person entering the story, which is Rocket. So you get two different types of lettering in this page. You get the Angela Alva dialogue, and then you get the diary captions from Rocket, whose narrative begins here and leads you into page 4.
Yeah, it's a very clever use of lettering to show it's a different character. In fact, I'm working on a comic now, Joe, and I think I'm going to steal, not specifically this font, but I think I'm going to steal that idea because I think it's a really smart way to approach things. Now, we want to keep pace, so we want to immediately go to Spawn Bloodletter. Give us the setup for Spawn Bloodletter. I read the pitch for it, and I was like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, assuming people know who Spawn basically is, Todd McFarlane's character, who was a CIA agent, who was killed, went to hell, and then was turned into a foot soldier of hell called the Hellspawn, and over the years has become King Spawn. But Bloodletter is about a woman named Tasha Thornwall. She was a member of the CIA, and there was a mission in which she and her team were given new orders on the field, and they decided to disobey those orders. And Al Simmons, who's basically the John Wick of the CIA, he came in and he wiped her whole team out. Tasha barely got away, and so he said, okay. He basically exposed her publicly and revealed her real name. So Tasha went underground. She let the world think she was dead. And all this time, she's been living in the shadows. She's been learning magic. And what happened was in Spawn 294, Spawn revealed himself to the world as Al Simmons back from the dead and said, I'm here to save your souls. And Tasha saw that on TV and she got triggered. And she just said, you know what? That dude's got to go. Because that's her boogeyman. That's the person who's the source of her trauma and just wrecked everything that she understood about life. And so now that she has mystical power, her mission is to kill Spawn. And she doesn't care that he's Spawn. She's not intimidated. Her philosophy as a former CIA agent is that you can kill anybody. You just need the method, you need the resources, and you need the moment. And so that's her plan. So Bloodletter is Tasha Thornwall's revenge mission to kill Spawn. And as we see her plan become realized, we get a glimpse of the secret history of the Spawn universe that Tasha lived through for the last 10 years.
How jealous, Mike, am I that he gets to write Spawn and I don't? That is epic. Yeah, that is epic.
Dude, I tell you, as a person who bought Spawn #1 in 1992, I did not see this coming. You couldn't have told me I was going to get to write in Todd McFarlane's universe. So, make no mistake, it's a thrill for me too, and I'm having a blast.
Oh,
and so Tim, huh?
I was just going to say, we got a question about, did you consult with Todd McFarlane on this?
Excellent question. So first off, want to say that unlike Shadow Cabinet, which I wrote solo, Bloodletter I'm co-writing with Tim Seeley. Tim Seeley is like a friend of everyone in comics, a good friend. A show that's out on Sci-Fi called Revival is based off of one of his Image comics. I think he's most known for Hack Slash. So we're the writing team on this. And what happened was, I connected with Thomas Healy, who's the editor-in-chief of Todd McFarland Productions on Twitter, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, Tim and I are jamming and writing things, and could we pitch something to you? Like, what does the Spawn universe need that it doesn't have?
And he said, Buddy Scalera.
And I was like, what? I can't hear you. What did you say? What did you say?
Scalera. He said, what? Bloodletter? Yeah, Bloodletter.
So, so we pitched him, and he liked the idea enough that he arranged for a Zoom call with Todd McFarlane, otherwise known as the Todd Father. And so we have like this 1 hour Zoom call with Todd, and it's absolutely surreal, right? Because, I'm a business person as well as a creative. And so when I think of Todd McFarlane, I don't just think of one of the co-founders of Image Comics. I think of an entrepreneur who founded Todd Toys, who said, I remember in early interviews in the 90s, he said, I want to make Spawn a household name. And in like 6 years, comic book, animated series on HBO, toy line, video game, live action film with Michael Jai White and John Leguizamo and Martin Sheen. I'm like, this guy is a force of nature and a driven force of nature. So getting to talk with him, and I knew at that point, I'm like, look, Todd McFarlane isn't spending an hour with us unless we got the gig. You know what I mean? So then once we got it, it was like, okay, let's go. We brought in our team of Christian Rosado and DC Alonso. And it's just like, man, we were off to the races.
Well done. Oh, wait, I got cheering. Hang on.
Well,
I just got to find it. There we go. There it is.
Okay, Mike, did we have another first-timer on the show?
We have a couple of first-timers on the show.
Joe brought in some first-timers. Bring them up. We'll put on the sound effects and the...
Ryan Acosta.
Welcome, Brian. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you. Hold on. Let's give him the bell.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got Victor. Victor's not a newbie, but he's here.
Hey, Victor. Nice to see you. Victor's a regular here. Victor's and actually a very good artist. And didn't you have another newbie, Mike?
Well, we had Challenges, but we already said hi to them.
Challenges.
Yeah. Challenges on Comics and Games. That's a store in Georgia, a comic book shop, which is owned by Tony Cade. Really great guy. Just did a signing over there a few months ago.
Joe Illidge. This is why everybody likes Joe. Joe remembers everything. What an amazing ability to remember everything. I wish I could just remember what I had for breakfast today. Okay, so so we have Spawn Bloodletter. I'm going to zoom in so that Mike and I can both see what you've done here. And summarize for us, because I want to make sure that we're setting this up for the last part, which is Illuminous. We're setting up Joe's credibility, Mike. Go ahead.
Sure. So, Tim and I always start off with a plot, and one person will do the first draft of the plot, then the other person will give some notes, and then the first person will tweak it. Mm-hmm. And then that plot will be the basis for the script. So this is the plot that we both mutually agreed on, that I was the originator on. And this is then the nucleus for the script.
Okay, so you're outlining sort of beats, right? This is kind of a beat sheet. What's happening on this page?
Right, and not only like what you see, but just like the emotional beats. What's happening with the characters in this scene? Like, what's Tasha Thornwall's perspective? Because this scene is actually one of the flashback scenes This takes place 9 years before Bloodletter 1. This is a very early Tasha Thornwall who is just beginning her journey of disillusionment.
All right. So we take this and we move into an actual script page. Now, I think what said page 6, and we're looking at 11 now, right?
Yes, 100%. So one of the things that happens is, you know, man plans and God laughs, right? So when you make a plot, you have to understand that that plot is not set in concrete.
Mhm.
Because when you're writing it, things organically change, right? And as I was writing it, it made sense to me. Oh, you need to start this issue off not with Bloodletter, but with other members of the Spawn Universe cast. There's a team of heroes called the Scorched, and they're very important to this story. There's members of the Scorched that get kidnapped so that the leader of the Scorched, whose name is She-Spawn, she is drawn into Tasha's trap, in a sense. So when I was writing the script, I added pages before this scene. So yes, what was page 6 became page 11 of the actual comic.
All right, so panel 1, we're in flashback. And then panel 2, will we come back to regular, or is the entire scene flashback?
This entire page is flashback.
So we're in flashback. We've got, you know, a crack in the mouth, blood wiping. You're keying in on the color there. You got a close-up on Tasha, ready to go again. Then you switch to X nighttime, close-up of feet on hot coals. You got some words that enhance it, and then a full shot of Tasha standing on the hot coals. I noticed that you do what a lot of professional writers do, Joe, is you not only give description, not over description, enough description, and then also enough dialogue so that the artist knows the charge of the scene and how much room they need to leave for the dialogue. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what it looks like you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a full script writer. I know that a lot of people, there's a whole generation that came up on the Marvel method, which is, you know, the writer writes what's in all the panels, doesn't include any dialogue. And so then the artist draws and then the writer writes to that. I like to write full script to get it out of my head. As someone who's had art training, and so I understand what artists do as much as I could possibly without doing what they do. So when I write dialogue, I take space into consideration. And I feel like, to your point, that helps the artist understand, okay, this is the emotional state of this character in this panel. This is the emotional state of this entire scene. And it helps determine how the artist draws it. It helps determine how the colorist colors it, right? Like, color is psychological. And you can see the transition from cool to warm is important here. It's not just the fact that they're now standing on hot coals. It's that we're upping the ante of the drama of the scene.
Good stuff, huh, Mike?
Yeah, this is like super in-depth. This is stuff that I would never think of to be like, oh, I have to describe all the stuff that's happening so the colorist can get into this. I'd be like, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, I think it's essential that colorists get scripts as well. You know, I think they need to have that context as well. And we see the results and you know it's worth it.
Yeah. All right. So let's take that script and move it into the actual page. So let's zoom in on the page, Joe. So you know, you could take us through play by play based on the script. You got the well, why don't you do it? You got the crack in the mouth. Go ahead.
Right. So basically, one of the things that I did in the story was this transition from the present to the past and back and forth. So in the last panel of the previous page, in the present, Tasha Thornwall, the Bloodletter, is punching She-Spawn. And then when you go to this page, it's the past. It's 9 years ago. and it's the same characters. It's younger Tasha punching Jessica Priest, right? And this is the first moment in the training where Tasha actually got to tag Jessica, because Jessica's a superior fighter to her. So then Jessica basically says, okay, there you are. Like, there's the fighter under all the muck and the psychological damage. And then she says, and then, Tasha says, let's go again. And then the whole scene about the coals is Jessica is teaching Tasha to be able to endure pain. And basically what she's saying to her is, suffering is the only inevitability of existence. Pain will happen. You have to be able to not only endure pain, but you have to be able to channel it, because it's the only way you're going to outlast the enemy, by being able to take pain. Right?
This is a perfect example, Mike. We talk about this all the time, show and tell. You have the dialogue where they're talking about, pain as a reminder that you're alive, but then also reinforcing it with an obviously painful way to be standing. And I think you get you get two layers. And I think the dialogue reinforces who the teacher and who the student is. It's not two equals on the coals. You have one who is teaching the other.
That's right. And something I want to point out here, the genius of Christian Rosado, the artist, in the script, the last panel, I wrote Tasha looking dead at the reader and kind of like she was gritting her teeth or something like that. But Christian went for something more subtle and dramatic, which is, Tasha's looking to the side and she's trying to endure. She doesn't want to grit her teeth. She doesn't want to show pain. And she's receiving an uncomfortable truth about life. And she's not ready to look Jessica in the eyes yet. That's such an emotional subtlety, man. Like, when I look at that page, I'm like, talented artists make writers look better. That's just a fact, right? And an artist like Christian Rosado makes Tim and I look better, because Christian he's a thoughtful storyteller.
What I got out of this was, you have 3-4 medium shots, even though you're changing. You've got the shot left to right. You see who's getting hit, who's doing the hitting. Then you have, them kind of looking at each other through the panels. You have the close-up of the feet. But this is a very Citizen Kane type of shot, like an Orson Welles type of shot, where you show the vast 70 millimeter widescreen full. This is the first time you see location, and that shows the magnitude of it, the time of day, and then again you come into a hard close-up, but in a much larger panel. So the storytelling on this is magnificent. It's all in the script, and yet when you see it pulled together like this, it becomes something that really resonates, and it has an emotion. I see what you're saying here. Like, this look is not a dead stare look. This is somebody who's trying to hold it back and trying to learn to be strong.
100%. This is a broken human dealing with an uncomfortable truth and beginning to understand that, yes, like, your suffering doesn't make you special. Everyone suffers, right? That's it,
All right, so Mike, we're gonna move into some colors now, because Joe hyped us about the colors. Let's see what happens when. Oh, hold on.
Oh, we got Jeff Yoon. I really admire how economical Joe is with his dialogue. No paragraphs and paragraphs of exposition.
Oh, thank you so much. It's one of the things that honestly I learned from, my first mentors in comics, Dwayne McDuffie and Denny O'Neil, right? And it's, first off, there's this debate that happens every year. I don't think it's come up in 2025 yet, because 2025 is a very interesting year. But it's like, who's more important, the writer or the artist? And it pops up on all the social media platforms, right? And it's like, listen, without the artist, comics are prose.
Yeah.
Without the words, comics are still comics. So that answers the question right there, right? So as writing comics, I can't have this ego about, oh, my value is determined by word count, right? Like my value is, can I inspire the artist to tell the story in a way that is visually captivating, right? Because from my point of view, a script is not a series of instructions. A script is a conversation with the artist, right?
That sounds like
In a
a
weird
cut
way.
right there. That's an edit right there, right?
That is.
Yeah.
That's a good clip right there.
That's a good clip. Let's keep going on, so that, because he's given us clip gold here. All right.
Yeah.
So we went from black and white. Let's move into color and then letters. Help us out. I also noticed that the panels are suddenly colored as well. Joe, walk us through this magnificent final work with the letters and the colors.
Oh, definitely. So the coloring is by DC Alonso. Christian Rosado and DC Alonso both come from one of the top agencies in comics, Butsedo Entertainment, owned by Luis Arambaru. And so he really knows how to bring teams together from his own talent pool. And so you can see what DC did, where again, he changed the temperature. It's, he could have done it very simple and the coals are hot, but everything else is cool because the first 3 panels are cool. But no, he changed the temperature of the entire scene for the back 3 panels. And by doing that, he changes our understanding of reality, because you could, argue that Tasha may feel like she's in hell, like she's got hot coals at her feet. She's surrounded by heat. Like this is a living nightmare in which there's no escape. So she must endure it, right? And so when you get to the lettering, one of the things that happens, and I think this might have been an editorial decision on the part of Thomas Healy, but he framed all the borders in this page with yellow. And if you look throughout the book, what happens is the pages that take place in the present day have regular borders, but the pages that are flashbacks have yellow gutters.
How about that?
So that's an editor coming up with a visual device as another layer of storytelling, which I thought was great.
Nice. Oh, we got somebody else new on here.
Oh, let's welcome our new one. Let's give him a round of applause.
The eclectic.
There it is. And it looks like Eclectic Bleared Niche is also new too, right?
Yes.
Well, let's give the medal.
Wow! Thank you to all these people for showing up tonight. This is awesome.
David said he's not new, but we'll consider him new.
We're gonna say you're right, David. You're not new, but we're still happy to see you. There was a question there, Mike. Did we want to run it to Joe?
Yes. Since you envision Vanessa Williams playing the new System Boss, do you envision a specific actress to portray Tasha or her angelic assistant?
That's a great question. There wasn't one person who represented Tasha, but when Tim and I were conceiving her, some of the names that came out so that we could say to Christian, hey, vibe off of these people were Janelle Monáe, Grace Jones, and a wonderful actress named Gugu Mbatha-Raw that I first saw in Black Mirror, but a number of people may remember from the Loki series on Disney Plus.
Joe, I marvel at your pronunciation of everybody's. Like you, I could give you any name and you could pronounce. Give me that last name again.
Gugu Mbatha-Raw. I'm almost positive that's how you say it. And yeah, I mean, listen, names are important. Because if I say Scalera, that's not your name. No. And it just sounds like something else, like it means something else. You know what I mean?
We did have a time once, Joe, where somebody couldn't get Mike Fasolo's name right, and they kept saying Mike Fasolo. Fasolo. They're like Fasolo. It's not that long of a name.
Dude. Seriously.
It happens.
Yeah. It happens. Okay. So that leads us to where we want to be next, Joe. Illuminous is a new service offering that you've brought along, and I brought some images. But can you set up Illuminous, and just so everybody knows, the URL is right here. I'm really excited about what you're doing. I think it's. Let me just say for starting point, there are many voices out there, and there is incredibly bad advice given very well. Bad advice given well can draw people down the wrong journey and waste their life, their resources. But what you have, and we set it up in the beginning of the show, and part of what we were doing with these scripts are the proof points that you are qualified to help people in a variety of ways. Talk to us about what Illuminous was built to do, and then we'll get into some of the specifics.
Sure. So Illuminous is basically the purpose that I'm serving to creators, clients, and companies, right? So I've been in comic books and publishing for 32 years. I started at Milestone in 1993. I've worked on Batman, which is arguably one of the most ubiquitous and profitable intellectual properties on planet Earth. And it was working on Batman that I really started to understand that these characters were intellectual properties with rules. And if you break those rules, God Almighty help you. And Batman, that was a real lesson. So that was my beginning of understanding of intellectual property. And so I've worked on Batman. I was the editor-in-chief of Heavy Metal. I've worked at various publishers. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking my experience as an editor, as a caretaker of IP, and I'm putting that out into the world through my company Illuminous as a service. So
wait, let's also pause. You have what I would consider the requisite street cred, because what we just showed is that you are an active creator. You are making comics. And you mentioned this earlier. Joe's been on the show at least 2 other times. You broke into comics with the aspiration of being an artist. So you also understand art. And when you talk about color and color theory, you understand it as a trained artist. You were educated as an artist and then got into the business and discovered your love of editing. I don't mean to speak, right, but you have that street cred, and that's why I was excited to talk with you, and we'll get into some of the exercises that you do. But can you just address that for a minute, talking about why it is important to have experience to be in the coaching role that you're in?
Yes. So, to your point about my origin, and more specifically, I wanted to be a writer. However, before I got into comics professionally, yes, I was the kid that was like John Byrne and George Perez. I want to be one or the other. And then I just learned over time, that's not your destiny, man. Like, you don't have that skill. But then I turned over to writing, but I had that art education. I graduated from School of Visual Arts in New York. Before that, I went to High School of Art and Design. If you look at those schools and you look at the comic book luminaries that came from those 2 schools alone. So I have a serious art education. And so one of the rules at School of Visual Arts is you could not be an instructor there unless you were a working professional in the field that you were instructing, right? Because it's very hard to get people to pay you to solve their problems. And if you cannot prove legitimacy, authenticity, why should they do that, right? So to your point, I'm presently working in Todd McFarlane's Spawn universe, which means that I know how to add to a universe's intellectual property. I know how to observe the rules, build characters within that. I know how to build characters with long legs, right? And what I mean by that, no, I don't mean long legs like Tina Turner, God rest her soul, who had her legs insured by Lloyd's of London. What I mean is narrative long legs. So an idea that could last for years, like Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead, like James Tiny and the Fourth, something is killing the children, right? So I practice what I preach to my clients, and they know that I'm coming from a place of truth, that when I give them advice, that advice is in their interest, and that I sincerely want to see them succeed at the highest level of quality. I don't want to see them succeed with mediocrity. Now, a variety of people on planet Earth have succeeded with mediocrity. I'm not interested in helping facilitate that. I want to send you into battle with quality.
Well, and we'll give you a little behind the scenes when Joe is you were executive editor or EIC at Heavy Metal.
You know, it's funny. They basically mean the same thing.
Right.
So the math says an executive editor, but you better believe I was the editor in chief.
So we pitched Joe a story, and Mike and I, and we thought it was awesome. It's still awesome, but Joe bounced it back to us with some good questions, right, Mike? Like that we hadn't considered, and it made it a better story. And then he left Heavy Metal before he published it. But I think, you know, you did give us a lot to think about, right, Mike?
Yeah, there's definitely stuff in there that I was like, I didn't even consider that. And then
I remember that. Yeah, thank you. And I think what I remember about the story was the experiential point of view of the character in relation to their environment, right? Like something like that. Like I remember when I worked at Batman, I had a writer write a story and a character was hung upside down, like captured by some kids. And I was like, you know, after a while, when you're hung upside down, like your blood starts like going down there. You start getting dizzy. Like this cannot last for long. She has got to get the hell out of there. So just like that, it's like you have to think about, well, what's the character experiencing right now? So I think that was something that I had advised you in the pitch, and that's something that I practice in my writing. And so something like that, which is a storytelling layer, these are the things that I will tell clients as I'm helping them build out their stories, right?
So let's not keep them in suspense any longer, because I have some cool slides to share that you provided to us. You take them through a program. It looks like a multi-phase program. Briefly, just tell us what we're looking at here, because there are some other examples that I'd like you to dive into. Just give us the overview of what we're looking at.
Okay, so phase one is character building and world building. And I say that because everyone says world building, world building, world building, world building. I've never heard one person say character building. And I'm like, well, if you don't have a compelling character, you don't have a story. Think about any movie or TV show you like. There's got to be one character in there that you are connecting with, right? So I think you have to start with who is the character and what's the journey that they're on, right? Once you know the character and the journey, then start defining the world, because the world is either going to be the enemy of the character or the ally to the character, right? Once you have character, journey, world, then you go to the theme, right? And theme is very important, because a lot of people write and they don't know what their theme is. And it's okay. You know, this is how you learn. So a lot of people will confuse the theme with the premise. So here's an example that I always give, and I may have given this before with you both, Buddy and Mike. Daredevil is about a kid who grew up in, you know, like Hell's Kitchen, who was blinded by an accident and given superhuman powers. His dad was murdered by criminals. He got revenge on the criminals, and he decided to dedicate his life to law. And when the law wasn't enough, he became Daredevil, right? And he became a superhero of the streets. That's what Daredevil is, the premise. The theme of Daredevil is the little guy always gets run over by the big guys, by the companies and the corporations and the people with so much power. Someone must fight for the little guy.
Wait, hold on.
That's who Daredevil is.
Hold on. Let's do this again. We're gonna go big on this. What's the theme of Daredevil, Joe?
The theme of Daredevil is that the little guy of society is usually defeated decisively by the big guys of the world, the magnates, the corporations, the corrupt governments and regimes. And someone has to fight for the little guy. That's who Daredevil is. Daredevil is the defender of the little guy because his dad was a little guy who got murdered by criminals. And so he will defend his dad again and again and again and again.
Well done, Joe.
Thank you. And once you know your theme,
that's a keeper.
Yes.
listen. And once you know your theme, then you're really off to the races because all of the characters in the story will either support or oppose the theme. And through supporting or opposing the theme, they're supporting or opposing the main character.
So, and that's where you pose the question. And I think what's important, and because we had this experience with you, Joe, you were asking insightful questions. We, as two writers, when you work together, you're supposed to be challenging each other. We thought we had it. You asked some insightful questions in a nice way that didn't make us feel badly that we didn't know the answer. You challenged us to go back and think, and we did. And I think, the demonstration here that you have, that you just talked about, your story and then your theme and how they are different things, different than the premise, is huge. I think that your experience as an editor and a writer is what makes what you're doing with Illuminous so compelling and authentic.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, I love comic books, and the industry is in a time right now where it's crazy. And Buddy and Mike, you know this. Publishers don't want to do ongoing series anymore. Ongoing series are the bad guy. The market tells them ongoing series can't be maintained. So they become these robust engines of creating limited series, which means they have to keep making them again and again and again. They have to keep getting new ideas. Are there enough creators right now? We need new creators. We need new ideas. And it's in the best interest of comics that more of those comics are good and fewer of them are not. And that most of those comics are actually comics. They're not movie pitches in disguise, because people aren't stupid. They can smell that one. If you make a good story, it's multimedia. If you make a movie pitch disguised as a comic book, it's neither. It's not a comic book, and it's not a movie. It's some weird life form that we don't need in this world.
Well,
okay, we need stories.
Here's where we're going to go. And here's how I think you bring value as a fellow creator. Talk about this basic principle that we all should know about storytelling, Joe.
Sure. So I say at the core of every story is a character in conflict with a system, whether the system is governmental, corporate, social, or familial. Sometimes the system can be a person's internal programming, in which case the character is in conflict with himself.
I want to do another take. Let's do it one more time, Joe. Go ahead.
Okay, so at the core of every story is a character in conflict with a system, whether the system is governmental, corporate, social, or familial. Sometimes the system can be a person's internal programming.
I love that. All right, so explain what a character in conflict is, because I think that people think a conflict is the punch in the face, but that's not. That's just the manifestation of conflict. What is conflict, Joe?
Conflict is the tension between the individual and something defined or abstract, which is either represented externally through an individual or a set of individuals like a family, or the world, or internal. It can be that person's own denial, their own negative programming that they inherited by how they were raised by their parents, right? Because programming can be generational, and until you recognize you have negative programming, you can't even hope to break the pattern, right? So that's what it is. It's tension between you and a force that is preventing your evolution, and that force is either external or internal.
Mike, as a 3-time Emmy Award-winning and 2-time Annie Award-winning writer, how do you approach this? Do you start with theme? Do you start with character? Or do you look for a conflict right away? Like what do you do in the process?
I mean, I usually just start with the characters, and then I kind of work my way into all the other stuff. I don't just go, oh, I'm gonna start with the theme. I want the little guy protecting the big guy protecting the little guy. I just don't really start with that. You just start with the character and you just kind of work around all the rest of the stuff.
Well, 100%. What I love about what Joe does here in his next slides is he helps us to understand. Now I know it's a little bit small, so I'll zoom in. I'll zoom in a little bit here, because what Joe does is he gives examples from Andor, expressing the theme. Joe, or is this the theme?
Yeah. Well, this is the conflict. This is who Cassian Andor is in conflict with. Like, the show tells you on one level he's in conflict with the Empire, but in season 1 of the series, one of the best shows in like the last 10 years, by the way, he's really in conflict with his own apathy. When you meet Cassian Andor, he doesn't care. He doesn't pick a side. He's like rogue. He's just like, I'm just trying to get by on my wits and make it to tomorrow. And what happens is, through a series of events, he is embedded in the system of the Empire, not the Empire as this abstract, but the Empire's layers as a machine that operates intricately and with particular strategy. And that's what he understands, that he cannot not have a side anymore. You cannot witness the inhumanity of the Empire and have apathy, right? And so season 1 is Cassian Andor being confronted with and overcoming his internal programming through suffering. Like, he's got to suffer to get there, because in reality, pain is more educational than pleasure.
Now, I love what you do here with this, and then you do another deep dive analysis of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You do a deep dive analysis about The Batman, which is a specific film. What I love about what you're doing in your work, Joe, is your ability to distill familiar properties to help me and Mike to understand what makes them work and what is underneath all of the action and the dialogue and the special effects, what's really happening. And I think that that's critical. That is what we need more of. You talk about what we need more of. I think what we need more of is critical thinking.
100%. Thank you. It all starts with a good story, man. I mean, everything you lay on top of it. That's another thing I learned in School of Visual Arts. You would have students and they would want to get the most expensive paints and the cadmium colors and the cobalt colors, and oh, I gotta have Winsor Newton paints and Winsor Newton brushes. And it's like, I remember the teacher said one day, you can't make a good painting over a bad drawing. You could have the best painting technique, but if the drawing sucks, the final piece is going to suck, right? So the foundation has to be a good foundation upon which you build. I mean, that can be a building. If you build a building or a bridge with a weak foundation, what's going to happen? Collapse. Your story will collapse if you don't have a solid foundation.
Hold on, let's do this. So, all right, Joe. So, Mike, before we go into the final stretch, do you have any thoughts? Because you are known to be a writer as well. Any thoughts on what we're seeing and hearing from Joe?
What I think all this that Joe is talking about is fantastic, because when I was coming up and trying to learn all this stuff, it was very hard to find someone or a book or, anything that would give you examples like that. Like if you go back to those slides, you're talking about like the theme of Andor or the conflict of Andor, because somebody can just say, oh, do it like Andor. But if you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea what this is. And you need these examples for somebody just coming up to learn this and go, okay, now I get it. And that's what I think is fantastic about this, because I always wanted examples of these things. And, you either had to try and figure them out yourself, or, if you knew somebody who happened to, be in the industry, they could help you out. But generally you were on your own. And it's just great to have somebody that you can go, okay, this is it. Here's your starting point.
And I'm gonna add more compliments to Joe as well, reinforcing what I said earlier. Just because there is a course that is advertised, just because somebody claims that they have worked on certain properties, does not necessarily make them qualified to be an educator or an editor or someone who can coach you. What I think is important when people are considering what shows they watch, like on YouTube, what books they read, what communities they join, what courses they take on Coursera, it's important to really make sure that the person who is teaching or in the role of a coach has some level of accomplishment. And I think, Joe, what you bring is a level of accomplishment that has credibility, and not just your own personal accomplishment, your accomplishment of working with some of the best creators historically known to the industry. And I think that's what makes Luminous exciting and a little bit different than some of the other service offerings out there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And, it's really about helping people realize their ideas in the best form in comic books and graphic novels. I think it's a great medium and a great way to introduce ideas into the world.
We could not agree more. And with that, Joe, we're going to come to the home stretch. We're looking at your workspace directly behind you. Is this some sort of Static Shock painting, or what are we looking at here?
So during the first Milestone run from 1993 to 1997, when I worked there in the editorial department, this painting was done by an artist named Wilfredo Santiago. Unfortunately, I don't believe it was ever published as a cover. It was meant to be a cover, but Milestone ended as a business in its first iteration before this one was used. And the paintings came into my possession. One of my former colleagues at Milestone said, hey, I have these. Do you want them? Because I can't use them. So I ended up keeping the static. There was a hardware and there was one of Icon and Rocket. And I sent that to Dwayne McDuffie's widow, Charlotte McDuffie, because I felt like that's where they should be. So so this is something that, I always have Virgil Hawkins behind me. He's a very important hero to the world. He symbolizes the beginning of my career. And, sometimes he makes me think of Dwayne. He makes me think of the old man, and the work that I'm doing is a continuation of the mission to elevate people, to elevate story, and I feel like I'm continuing Dwayne's work.
You absolutely are, and it's a really beautiful piece. And then you have a pretty packed bookshelf. I'm sure that there are multiple bookshelves like this.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff here. It looks like an Inkwell Award.
Yeah, yeah, that was the Inkpot Award that I was blessed to receive in 2024. I was a special guest at San Diego Comic-Con, and I got to have a career spotlight panel. And at the beginning of the career spotlight panel, Jackie Estrada, who is the administrator of the Eisner Awards and Comic-Con International, came on the stage and gave me that award, and I think I blushed, and then I somehow had to talk, and so I look at that as a representation because it's for lifetime achievement in the industry, and I feel really gratified by it. As you guys know, the comic book industry is a very interesting one. You get lifted up, you get
Joe. We have no awards.
Listen. I mean, when I first got it in my mind, I was like, "You got the right guy." But then I was like, "Okay, I've done my time," and but we're here because we love it, and so to be able to receive that award was really heartwarming. So I keep it there as a good reminder,
And you do have quite an elaborate bookshelf. You have that DC Comics style guide, which everybody has a copy of.
Listen, that is Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, a giant and a gentleman, and that is the Bible of how you do character design for intellectual property, right? It just is. And so I recommend that book 100%. And man, when I got it, I just had to break it open.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. I think I need to get a copy of that.
You must get a copy.
I definitely am going to get it. Quite the bookshelf. It's not exactly Mike's grand piano, Mike.
It's very neat.
Well, those are neat. there are others that are less so, but I did think they would be the best ones for the shot. But it's wild. I'll be talking to clients, and I'll have to give them an example of something that I'm trying to say. And listen, pictures are better than words. So like, I'll go like this, and I'll pull out Black Sad, right? Or I'll go like this, and I'll pull out Wonder Woman, the Historia, because I'm showing them examples of graphic design when they're thinking about making covers or jackets. You know what I mean? So the books are very purposeful in my work.
You need examples. And Mike, you have the grand piano in the event where someone says, "Talk to me about screenwriting." You go out and you compose a little concerta, right?
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. Mike, you got me beat, dude. You got me beat.
Real.
All right, here we go. So we're almost here to the end, Joe. We should promo. Mike continues to drop new videos every day, shorts, clips from the show. You'll see some of the clips from the show. If you don't subscribe to the channel, definitely subscribe. Now I'm pointing to our socials, and I put we're thinking about dropping some socials and focusing on one platform. We will be having an announcement or 3 pretty soon. But if you want to follow us on the socials so that you know what's going on, you can follow us on that. I'm probably most active on X. Sean Chen! It's Sean!
Oh my goodness! Sean Chen is in the house. Such a great guy in comics. I've known him for years, and I mean, even before I knew him, I remember Heroes Return and Iron Man by Kurt Busiek and Sean Chen, and I was like, this is the Iron Man book I've been waiting for a few years now. So getting to actually know people like Sean and know him as the gentleman that he is, and talk about someone who is betting on himself. Sean is now the artist and writer and creator of his own comic book. And
The Evergreen
so,
comic, yeah.
and that's the thing, right? Like at this point in time, it's time for people to start betting on themselves. We have spent so much on our lot of our lives betting on the companies, betting on these intellectual properties that we love. Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes in comics, but you're not going to change the world if you're always betting on Spider-Man. And I know that because of Milestone. I learned it in the very beginning. These four guys bet on themselves and brought together a group of people and created a superhero universe that changed the world through static. So that's it. It's time for people to bet on themselves. And through Illuminous, I want to help them improve their odds.
All right, here we go. So if the cheering's gonna keep going unless I stop it. Okay. Joe, this is the part of the show where we ask the guest for one piece of advice. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch, and then I'm going to prompt you, and we keep it under a minute and a half of one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career. So I'll prompt you. Joe, what is one piece of advice that you wish you had received earlier in your career?
Write every day. Every single day, you know, because a writer writes and writing is rewriting. I wish someone had told me write every day because, you know, I think the development curve for me would have been a different one. But, you know, listen, we don't have time machine technology, and the journey that I'm on is the journey that I was meant to be on, and I got here, thank God. But yeah, there's something about the discipline that you develop if you write every day, whether it's 2,000 words or whether it's 300 words.
That's a good one. I'm like,
That is good. Those are good.
I thought I had him write every day, and that would have been it. That would have been the clip. But he gave us more than we expected. So, Joe, we're going to put you into the green room temporarily as we do the wrap on the show. Mike usually leaves some food for our guests. Mike, what did you leave in the green room for?
I didn't have much today, so I just left some cold pasta and raisins. I mean,
Okay.
Well, Joe, we're going to put you in the green room. We might be back to you.
Thank you so much, Mike.
I feel a little embarrassed that that's all you left. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. We absolutely wish you the best of luck with Illuminous, with the current and future comic book projects that you have. Thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight.
Thanks to you guys for having me. Always a good time. And thank you to everyone who came out tonight from throughout the industry. It's pretty amazing. So
it is pretty amazing. So, Joe, we're going to pop you into the green room. If we need you, we're going to bring you back. So enjoy the food that Mike left for you, and we might bring you back.
Oh, we got a new guy.
Oh, he's definitely new. Let's give the cheering, and then we give the welcome. Great episode. Came out with a lot of writing knowledge. I would agree. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Wow, look at that.
We got a subscriber.
We got a new subscriber, yeah. I got to tell you, Mike, it is impressive stuff from one of our regulars. So I think the key thing about all of this is, you know, Joe has built a career by constantly shifting, changing, adjusting, and then also just staying on top of where the opportunities are. And I think what I see with Illuminous is encouraging, because I see a lot of people offering these courses, and I question if they should rather be taking the course rather than teaching the course. And it does concern me.
Yes. Because you do, like he said about before, that you should have the people who have been in the industry and done what they're teaching. You know, if you're an artist or if you're an art teacher, you should be an artist and have stuff out there. If you're someone who teaches writing, again, you should be out there and have stuff published and produced and gotten in there so you can pass on what you know.
Yeah, the barrier to claim yourself a teacher is much too low. I'm gonna hold on, Joe. Right, Joe? Barrier to people claiming that they can be an educator or a coach or a world builder is much too low. We need to raise the bar there as well.
I would have to agree, and as someone who just had some cold pasta and raisins, I would say, I would say the bar to catering might be a bit low, but I don't know. But you know what? It all worked.
Award-winning writer, Joe. He's not a caterer.
It all worked out. But listen, I do agree with you 100% in that we have become a society in that now that everyone can connect with everyone through a phone or through social media, they immediately designate themselves experts, right? And I feel like you can identify the people that really want to help you and the people that simply want to make money off of you, right? And so that's the thing. I think we need to identify the people who can and truly want to help, especially at a time when, educators, teachers, guides, they may not be getting the love that they, deserve on a social level. And as someone who has been the recipient of knowledge through mentorship and teaching and boots to the ground learning about making comic books and making stories, I'm giving that back.
You certainly are. And Joe, we're giving you back a little bit of time. That's all for our show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. With guests like Joe, lessons. And as I mentioned, Mike and I will have some big announcements coming soon. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. You guys really make the show work for us. So thank you. And we will see you again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. and keep making comics.